Hello, everyone. My name is Travis Frizzell. I work for U.S. Bank here in Owensboro, Kentucky, and I'm here with you today to talk about Session 4 of JA Our Nation. So in the previous session that we had, we learned about the groupings of jobs that share the same skills, and we called those career clusters. Today, what we want to do is I want to talk to you guys about thinking like a job applicant. And a job applicant is someone that's applying for a job. And we want to examine the important work readiness skills that you'll need when you start looking to apply for jobs. So to start off today, I want to ask a couple of questions. So my first question is, someone has decided to hire you for a job. Describe the job and why you are perfect for it. And on top of that, I also want you to think about how you'll prove that you're qualified for that job. So I'll pause for just a second so that you guys can talk about that within your classroom. So when we look and talk about being prepared for a job interview and for applying for a job, I kind of come back to some of my experiences. And for me, in my current career, before I got my current job now, which is to help U.S. Bank write policies and procedures and make sure that everyone has the proper instructions for how to do their job. My job was to actually make sure that all of the different departments within the bank were staying in line with the rules and ensuring that they had the proper guidance for when rules in our banking industry changed. So when I decided to apply for my job, that was a big part of what I talked about and what made me qualified for my job. Is my previous job already had me working with a lot of the different departments to make sure that they were following the guidelines. And this new job that I was applying for was just taking that a step further and making sure that while not only all of the departments know the rules they have to follow, but we're also putting that into procedures and instructions for the individuals that work in those departments to follow. So it was all about making sure that I was ready for those conversations to be had with the person that was interviewing me, but also the qualifications that I had that made me confident that I could apply for that job and have a pretty good chance at getting it, which thankfully I did. So when we talk about getting ready and looking at jobs, we have to look at employees and employers. So an employee are people who work for businesses, and employers are businesses that hire workers. So for me, an example is I am an employee of U.S. Bank. And again, like I said before, my job within U.S. Bank is I make sure that we have the procedures and instructions for everyone to use in order to do their jobs for the entire organization that I work for. And within the organization I work for, there's a lot of different departments that do a lot of different things in the banking world, and we have to make sure that they know and that they have documented exactly what they're doing. I know it's a little bit boring, but that's okay. It's one of those jobs that really needs to happen, so I'm more than happy to do it. And like I said before, I felt that I was qualified to do this job when I applied for it. So when we talk about applying for a job, one of the big things that we have to talk about is your resume. And a resume is a written summary of a person's education, work experience, and skills. So what this is a document that you're going to bring to or to provide to the person that you're trying to get a job with that gives them an idea of what skills you're bringing to the table. It also tells if you've got education that would be pertinent to the job that you're applying for, and then same with work experience and skills. So if I'm applying for a job where I want to be, we'll say, a teacher, well, obviously, I've got to have an education in teaching. And then I've got to be able to back that up on a resume and say, I know how to teach, I've got the qualifications to teach, and I have the skills to be a good teacher and to make sure that my students learn in the classroom. And when an employer looks at a resume, they're looking to see if all of the person's education, work experience, and skills align with what they want or with the type of person they want to hire. Obviously, if I'm applying for a job and I don't have any experience, qualifications, or skills that would be good for that job, it's probably not really a job that I'm going to end up getting. But if I've got a good resume that shows that I have the skills and I have all of the education and everything that I would need to perform that job, then that's when that employer is going to take a hard look and decide whether or not they want to hire me. Next thing we're going to talk about is soft skills. And soft skills are personal attributes and abilities that are needed in most jobs. People who demonstrate critical thinking and problem-solving skills are valuable to employers. Also, just as important to employers are people who have the appropriate behavior skills. And these are called soft skills. Showing up on time, being a team player, following the dress code, and having integrity are all examples of soft skills. And I can tell you, as someone that I have individuals that report to me, that work for me in my department, soft skills are very, very important. We want to make sure that not only is someone qualified for their job, but these aspects that we talked about here, those are present as well. Someone that shows up for work on time and that we know is going to be a good addition to our team. Another aspect of that is communication. And communication is the written or spoken exchanges between people to share information. And communication is a very, very important soft skill. To earn a profit and grow, businesses need people with strong communication skills. So the ability to read, write, and speak well are valuable skills that every employer is looking for. In the work that I do, my team has to talk to a lot of other departments. They have to ask them for information, and we have to kind of guide them as we create the procedures that we work with. So communication is extremely important. I want the folks working for me to be able to talk professionally and politely to the individuals that we have to work with or that we're working with in the other departments so that we can get our message across and we can help them as much as possible. The next phase of this is a job interview. And a job interview is the discussion between a potential employee and employer to help decide if the job is a good match. So really everything up to this point we've talked about is probably going to be covered within your resume. Generally speaking, resumes, they're not only going to capture your qualifications, but they'll also, in a lot of cases, capture a lot of the soft skills that you've got as well. So if an employer receives your resume, then they have to determine if they want to take the next step, and that would be to interview you. And when you go in for an interview, that's the face-to-face interaction you've got with your potential future employer so that they can determine if you're the best fit for the job. And that employer is going to talk to that potential employee about his or her skills and decide if they want to offer that job to them. So when we talk about job interviews, here's a few tips for your future job interviews that you might have. And again, I know you guys are young right now, so this might seem like it's a long way away, but trust me, if you take some of these tips, even for some of those first jobs that you get as you get a little bit older to make a little bit of money for yourself, this is going to help you out tremendously. Okay? So the first thing is when you've got a job interview scheduled, make sure you're on time. If not on time, be early. Make sure you're there and waiting and ready to go through the job interview. Dress appropriately. Make sure that you look nice. Be friendly, polite, and have a positive attitude. There is nothing worse than going into a job interview and being, cranky, grouchy, whatever. We don't want to do that. You're there to try and impress the individual that you're interviewing with so that you can hopefully get a job. So you want to make sure and put your best foot forward and be as friendly and polite as you possibly can. And a big one, make eye contact. Look them in the eye, have a conversation person to person with the person that's interviewing you. finally, thank them for the interview. Even though you might not get the job, it's always a good idea to make sure you leave on a positive note. Thank them for taking the time to talk to you, because even if you don't get this job, maybe that leaves the door open for another job in the near future. And you definitely don't want to leave a bad taste walking out of an interview and not following these guidelines, because that could potentially hurt you if another position comes open with that employer that you're interested in. All right. Well, that's going to wrap us up for this session. So, a few things to take away. Is remember, for businesses to be profitable and grow, they must hire the best employees. And you want to do everything you can to make sure that you're the best employee you can possibly be when you're applying for a job and when you're going in for an interview. And the things that you are learning now can later lead to skills that will be in demand when you're looking for a career. So like I said, I know this is all pretty far away maybe in your mind, but these are the type of things that if you learn them now, it's going to help you out a lot in the future. All right. So once again, thank you guys for your participation in this session. You've got an activity coming up within the classroom, and we will talk again for session 5. Thanks, everybody.